Hello, everyone. We are finally here. We had some technical issues, so I'm sorry for these minutes late. And we are very glad to be here today with one more episode of our program, Consciousness in Evolution, a program from Reaprendência International. And today I have Jaclyn Cowen as a guest. She's one of the teachers of Reaprendência. And we are going to talk about energetic anti-rubbish. That is a theme that I wanted to bring to you, to our audience, for a quite long time, because it's, in my point of view, it has a lot of influence in our everyday life, in our environment, in our productivity. Okay? So I invited Jaclyn Cowen, that is also one of the translators of the book that is from Katia Arakaki. Yes, and this book is being launched soon, I hope, but it's already translated and revised. And this book is exactly about energetic anti-rubbish. And so we are going to present to you some ideas for us to see how is our life nowadays, how is our environment, right? So, Jaclyn, welcome.
Thank you, Eliane. It's very nice to be here.
Good. So, let's get started. So, first of all, the principle of disbelief. Don't believe in anything, not even in what you learn in this class. Experiment, have your own experiences. And today we are going to talk about the energetic rubbish and its effects on our lives. And in part 2, we are going to see how we can organize our environment and getting free yourself from attachments, aiming for more evolutionary postures. Because when we get rid of this rubbish that is all over, this knick-knack that is in our lives, we can have a space, more mental space for focusing in our praxis. And that's the importance of this webinar of today. And in part 3, we are going to teach you some techniques to clean the toxic energies in objects and in our environment. People, feel free to send us questions and tell how it's in your life, how the energetic rubbish is in your life, if you have them or not, if you are in a evolutionary step that you are able to get rid of them, that you are super organized. Well, I am not. For me, I still need to learn a lot from that. So let's ask some initial questions. What is energetic rubbish? What is this idea come from? And where is it found? And how, people, do you usually feel in your environment? Do you feel well? Do you feel productive? Or sometimes you feel that things are not, you have a kind of brain fog? You are not so productive. You should be better on this in your environment. So these are just rhetorical questions for us to start reflecting. And so this idea of energetic rubbish comes from Dr. Vieira, and then the teacher Katia Arakaki wrote a book about it, and that is a great book, very detailed. And it defines energetic rubbish as the dysfunctional object or any materials evoking pathological energies, negative memories, anti-cosmoetical holotoxins, self-intrusion, or even useless objects are those dislocated in the context of a space, producing entropy in the environment, right? For example, photos, family photos, old ones, guns or imitation of guns, stuffed animals, bonsais, trophies, medals, pornographic material, and a lot of things. For example, even clothes, old letters from a deceased person, this type of thing. Okay? So, if you can comment, if you'd like to comment, please send your comments. How is your house? Do you have anything that you might think it's an energetic rubbish? You could throw it away. You could get rid of it. And where can we find it? Basically everywhere. If we are not aware of this condition, we can find in our clothes, we can find in our office, in our documents, old papers, in the kitchen, everywhere. Jaclyn, how are you? How is your house with energetic rubbish?
Great.
Are
yeah.
you do you have it organized?
Well, I think it's in part, there's always work that can be done. So, but I was thinking while you were talking, it would be interesting to know for those people who are listening to us for the first time, like, what do we mean by energetic rubbish? Like this idea that each object has its own aura, this energetic field around it, and that it accumulates this energy. It attaches an energy to it. And yeah, it can be negative, and it's important to know, to have this discernment, I think, to understand what is exactly energetic rubbish or not. And we're going to be talking about that, right, Eliane?
Yeah. So let's move. And so, Jaclyn, please.
Yes, so how do you feel in your own place? And Eliane, you began to talk about that. These feelings that you can have. Ideally, we want to feel good in our own places. We want to feel productive. We want to feel like comfortable. It's our space. However, sometimes through maybe the activities that we do there, but also the objects, it can, over time, if there's too many objects and there are specific types of objects in our space, it can start to weigh energetically have a weight, and this can have an effect on our own, thoughts and feelings and our level of productivity. So, yeah, how do we feel more rested and calm and productive? Or on the other hand, do we feel more lethargic, demotivated to do things, distracted, just procrastinating? Angry can be, exactly, depending on the types of items that we have in our place. Exactly. And this is connected to, for example, people who collect arms and things like that, right, Eliane? And of a more aggressive nature. And this actually has its own energetic field, or holothosine, as we call it, which can have an effect on the feelings that we have. Okay, so the next slide. So yeah, related to this, and this is very important, right? How productive are we? Do we go into our our office space, and we just want to, we have a goal and we're able to do that, right? Are we able to be somatically productive? Or are we more like, having these other more negative feelings? And a lot of it has to do with our space, right? What's in our space? Do we like to collect lots of things in our space? Maybe this is what's contributing to these feelings that we have of
a good question, Jaclyn, would be when you wake up, how do you feel? Do you feel like doing the things you planned, or are you drained and tired? Because this has connection with all the environment. Sometimes everything is new and clean, but there is something there, you weren't aware of that, but that's absorbing energies. Toxic, it has toxic energies.
Exactly. And this is throughout the whole house, you know. It could be focused in one area, but it could be, you know, anywhere in the house, which is contributing to that. And connected with this is, are you influenced by online trash? So this is more related to, for example, people who like to go online a lot. You know, they use their devices, such as their cell phone or their laptop, a lot to, you know, scroll and look at posts and go online, or even play video games. And this actually can influence our notebook, our computer, our laptop, right? And actually, so whenever we go on the computer, we're more likely to be directed to those types of activities, because it's already created that holothosene, and that affects us energetically. It has that, you know, influence on us.
Very important, Jaclyn, that you were mentioning this in online trash, because we tend not to give too much importance to that because it's virtual, but it is also an energetic trash.
That's right. That's it. So, yeah, and we can think about it like this. Are we more involved in activities that are more emotional or connected to the soma, or intellectual activities? And sometimes at the end of the day, we need to just, if we feel like our notebook, our laptop is too energetically dense, we may need to exchange or to buy a new one. So, another thing is, in our today's society, we are very much influenced to, you know, more than ever, we are influenced by society to consume things, to buy things. You know, we are a consumer society. And so all around us, we have, you know, marketing that's, you know, wanting us to buy things. And a lot of us get pulled, you know, into that. At some time. And so how many things, like, do we have lots of things in our house that is based on these consumerist tendencies? So yeah, we have, you know, people can substitute their neediness for things. Is this something that, you know, resonates a little bit with you? Another thing is this fear of missing out. You know, we want to do what everyone else is doing. We get influenced by, you know, what's popular in the moment, the fashions. Keeping up with the Joneses is another expression, right? Doing what your neighbour's doing, or always looking over to see, you know, what things they have. The symbols of status and power. You know, this is something very much conditioning from our society. The things bring us status and power. Do we have the latest technological, you know, device? Do we always feel like we need to, you know, keep up with the latest technology? And another thing is the beliefs in superstitions and amulets. Do we have things in our house that has, you know, evokes, you know, this type of energy, and consciexes, extra-physical consciousnesses relate to that, or spirits, we can say. And another thing is maintaining traditions. So things like, do we keep photos or antique furniture that brings us memories from the past, but it maybe are of a negative nature, or, you know, are contributing to this negative holothosene or energy in our house? So we need to think about this. You know, it's case by case. We need to think about it. And
I have a comment about this keeping up with the Jones, because I have a friend. She's crazy for technology, and she has to have the latest version of everything, all the latest version of mobile phone and that stuff. And so what happened some years ago is that she bought the latest version of a mobile that was super small, but imagine it was, if you take our mobile, today's mobile, you cut it into four. It was like just like that. And it was really expensive, but she bought it because it was on fashion, and it is a symbol of status. And she, of course, she used it for 2 months. It's horrible because it's so small, you can't speak properly. And she ended up selling that and having to buy another one or going back to her previous one. So just to mention that people usually stays days in a line to have the first version of some technological device that is being launched. You know that, and they pay whatever is asked for.
Yeah.
And this is a lot of marketing that has today influences us a lot.
Of course, of course.
Yeah, Jaclyn, I have a question here from Anna Yogan, right? And for us to discuss, and I'll read it. I would like you to comment something, and I will also comment something. From this point of view of being two consumer, of us consuming a lot, how would you explain hoarders, meaning people who accumulate lots of things in their house?
Yeah, this is an interesting question because a lot of the time, and we need to think about the level of hoarding, right? Each person. But if you are a hoarder, you usually you have an attachment to things, right? And so unfortunately, this person who's a hoarder, it means that you're going to have more things in your house, and it can contribute more strongly to creating a holothosene that's not very favorable, right? But to explain hoarders, I would say something like it's a very strong attachment to things, and it's emotional attachment. And so then, maybe it's something that a person needs to recycle within themselves in order to free themselves from this type of tendency. Eliane?
Yes, and going a bit further, what I read about hoarders is that it's a psychological disease, psychiatric disease, and it is in DSM-4, DSM-5, that is the latest one. And it's something that is really pathological for the person. She has to go sometimes treatment and have even medication because it is a compulsion. And it's like the obsessive compulsive disorder. The person usually buys things, accumulates things, so that she can feel emotionally better, but it never happens. She has to keep on with that. And people, that is a big problem. So our suggestion is that the person looks for a psychiatrist to try to see really if she is a hoarder, and try and search for treatment. That's my suggestion.
Because sometimes some of us call ourselves hoarders. Oh, we're a hoarder. We like to hoard things, But what Eliane, you're talking about is the actual, psychological disease, right? As you mentioned. So, okay, very good question, Anna. So then we come to the next slide. Just this, we often buy too much, right? It's this, sometimes we have this impulse. We go into a store and we see.
Jaclyn, there are people who collect things. So she want to collect some shoes. People are addicted to buy shoes. Or I have a friend. She has a daughter, and she collects Barbies. The dolls. But she has more than 100 Barbies, and some of them are super expensive because they are part of a collection. They are more expensive than the regular ones. So, what for? The girl will end up growing, and she's gonna do. Maybe she will sell, donate to someone else.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, I think Eliane dropped out, but I'm going to keep going until she comes back. This idea that we often buy too much, these influence from society doesn't help. But of course, we need to tell ourselves when enough is enough, how many items do we collect? Like as Eliane was saying previously, do we like to collect shoes or bags, or do we? And is it something useful for our evolution, or could we be using our money in a better way, our time, all these things? Something to reflect on. And we've already mentioned this, so I don't think we need to go too much into it. But, each of us needs to look at ourselves in terms of our consumerism habits. Okay. And finally, this idea of the impact that it can have on our mental health. And Eliane mentioned, in terms of hoarding, it can reach an extreme expression, right? Where, it becomes a psychological disease. So, these toxic objects, but going back to the objects in itself, these objects can affect our mental health because as I mentioned before, the energies gravitate around the objects, and these gravitating energies influence us. So, we need to see what objects do we have in our house. Are there any that are of a more dogmatic or superstitious nature? Do we still like to collect lots of pretty amulets? Or we need to see. Even some crystals it can be, depending on the level of evocation that we create with them. So you need to, this idea that over time, for example, the influence of the types of objects that we have in our house, over time, we may just feel at the beginning like lethargy and tired. And then over time, how does that influence our mental state? So it can have a larger impact if we're not able to be productive in our life, things like that in our own homes. So the idea is this energetic rubbish condition, it's the objects, but it starts with us. We need to be able to renew ourselves, our ideas, our postures relating to the objects in order to, to create a more favorable environment.
I have an example, Jaclyn, that I would like to mention. Once I stayed in a place of a friend, and she is from Buddhist. She's a Buddhist.
Yes.
She practices this, the exercises, the meditations, and she has a lot of statues. And pictures and things that related to Buddhism. And she was also in Conscientiology, but she was never totally 100% in Conscientiology. She wanted to renew things. She knew the differences between Buddhism and Conscientiology. That is, Conscientiology has other approaches, a more evolutionary approaches regarding, for example, it deals with a lot of advanced ideas. It's something different, very different from Buddhism. And it's, what happened is that I slept there and I had a projection, an out-of-body experience. And while I was out of the body, I could see what I call the holotocene. That is the set of tocines, thoughts, sentiments, and energies. And it was like a net, very, very tight, very, very strong field of energy that was all over the apartment. And so I thought, well, that is the Holocene. It's the egregor, you know, the, I don't know if you see, if this is the right word in English, egregor, that it's a strong Holocene related to Buddhism. And then I was able to see that, to perceive the energetic dimension being out of the body. And I thought it was very didactic for me, because sometimes the person wants to renew things, but those objects evoke other energies, because they are full of those same thoughts, sentiments, and energies of that philosophy, that line of knowledge.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way. And just for us to know, if we want to renew things, if we want to stay in one line of study and invest on that and really evolve on that, the best idea is to stay with one line.
Yeah, it's interesting what you're saying, because it made me remember, Eliane, when I first came to Conscientiology many years ago, I was a little bit involved with Buddhism, just a little bit, but I went to a shop. I didn't really practice any of the ideas. But I bought a very nice, like a little necklace with a little Buddha symbol. And I remember I used to wear it every day. I just thought it looked nice. I thought, this is nice. And I didn't know anything about Conscientiology at the time. And when I came to Conscientiology, I had a very interesting experience where I projected out of the body, had a projection like you, Eliane, and I was surrounded by, there was a Buddha, like a big Buddha, and it was surrounded by these women, these followers of the Buddha. And they wanted me to continue, with them. But already at that time, I was like, no, I'm not interested anymore. But see how I was saying small, just a little, little necklace, create that connection, those evocations, right, with you would say religion, right? So it's very interesting.
Okay, so here we are. Let's see how, after this, all this debate and conversation here, let's see how we can organize our environment and free ourselves from attachments. Because what we realize is that when we have these connections, it's because we have any type of attachment. We are attached of things, of postures, holocenes, and objects. Objects are only part of that, part of the issue. What we have to analyze is what goes behind that object. What are we trying to keep and maintain, right? So, as we said, objects have energies because we, according to Conscienciology, we don't think, we tossinate, right? So whenever we have a thought, in fact, that thought has other elements that has also, besides thought, the sentiment and the energies. And whenever we have that thought, our energies is spread all over, or everyone else's energies. So our house and objects are immersed in our consciential energies without the information we input in our energies. And depending on the quality and pattern of our toxins, they can be very positive and health or not. And these objects that surround us, that we possess, in general, they absorb and assimilate consciential energies present in the environment, exteriorized by people. And that's where problems begin. Okay, so what we can do, we have to eliminate. The first thing is to be aware of that and try to eliminate all the unnecessary, excessive, outdated objects that are evocative of backward Holocene, as we mentioned, the ones from previous philosophy or religions or lines or because they might be open to gravitate from the edge of the universe. And we they this influence us and our proceedings in everyday life. So we really have to change our ego. We want to recycle into our life, not go deep into the change of habits. And as we mentioned here in the beginning of this life, it might take the whole life for us to detach of postures, old behaviors. And that's the evolutionary process. There's nothing wrong about it. It's the way we are human. But what I've been seeing that is more healthy and it's more evolutionary, it would be a better evolutionary posture, is to live a minimalist life with the less things, less consumerism as possible. Of course, we have to have things to be comfortable. We have to have a comfortable life, to have good appliances, good clothes that make us comfortable and that make our life, our everyday life more practical. But we have to, in my opinion, we should be minimalist. The less is
And
better. What do you think?
can I just add something, Eliane? And this doesn't mean austere. This doesn't mean removing the colors and the brightness from your life. It's you can still be like, if you're a creative person, you can still make the place creative. But it's more about, yes, less is better.
Less is better. And people, some of you might ask from where to start, how to do it, how to unlock our physical space, because that unlocking your physical space means unlocking your mental space as well. So we have some techniques here. I will present to you one that is very common, and we even Mary Kondo suggests that, and other personal organizers suggest that. I did it at my place, and it really works. You have to take 4 large sacks or boxes and separate them. One's going to be garbage, things that you don't need, nobody needs. 2 donations, things that are still good, someone can use it. Number 3 is for the things you can resell and raise some money, make some money from it. And number 4, fix and reform. And either you keep it for yourself because it's going to be useful, or you donate to someone something that is working. So start the work and do one item at a time. What means? If you go to the kitchen to do this organization of the physical space, you just focus in the kitchen. So do everything with these 4 sacks or boxes in the kitchen. After you finish the kitchen, then you go to another place, to another category. For example, you go to your clothes. That's the most difficult part, because we women, we are very attached to our clothes and shoes and stuff, usually. So this is the initial idea, okay? And I tried that. It really works. You will see the difference in your environment. And then you start reorganizing by category. Avoid going to a specific room. For example, I'm going to to organize all my office. If you go to your office, you go there and then you focus, for example, in the documents. Another day, you take another category. You focus in the books. Another day, you focus on the furniture and other devices in the office. Then it tends to work better. Okay, we have a question here, Jaclyn.
Okay.
A question from Ana Alexandrino. And it's a very good question. Could you make a comparison between compulsive hoarders and oniomania? Oniomania. I didn't know the word oniomania, but shoppalism. Okay, the ones who shop. I think, Anna, as we mentioned before, when the person becomes a compulsive hoarder, the disease is already installed, because people that are the people I've seen, and I also know people that are compulsive hoarders with animals. The person brings all the abandoned animals into their house, into her house, and it's completely crowded. There's no space, no quality of life for them, and they get sick. They get they have a very low quality of life, and they can't stop accumulating pets, and they have difficulty in donating them. So this is something that is more pathological. It's a disease. And oniomania, I think it's kind of, it is obsessive compulsive as well, because I know even Anna is a researcher on that. I've watched her live about it, and it's great. Anna is an authority in this question, in this subject. And as far as I understand, it's a less serious issue. So, Anna, if you have any other comment, please do it. Jaclyn, would like to add something?
Yeah, for me, I see it like that. But the focus is a little different, because the person, it both is, you're buying, right? The shopaholicism and compulsive hoarders, it's this consumerism. It's connected to this Holocene of consumerism. But in terms of degree or intensity, it's different. Whereas the hoarder will, fill their house up, like Eliane was saying, without space, without, it is a disease.
Yeah, because usually if the person doesn't treat herself deep inside with psychotherapy, what's going to happen is that the person stops buying something, but will have another compulsion. For example, eating a lot, searching, looking for sex. So there are many kinds of compulsion. The person has to talk with, really to do a deep recycling, interconsciential recycling, work with energies, renew. We are going to talk more about that. How can we manage these things? Well, Anna Yogan commented here, in terms of mental disorders, there are two extremes: obsessive compulsive disorder and hoarding. Anna is a doctor, she's a physician, so she is telling the names of the disease, the official names of the disease. Okay, thanks. Thank you very much. And let me see here. There's another comment from Anna Yogan. Objects are part of our culture. In one hand, Europe constitutes an open museum. It's true. But in the other hand, North America doesn't have this feature, and also is destroying part of their status.
Interesting.
Yeah, yes. Thanks for your comment, Anna. If you want to add something else, how do you analyze this? Yes, everywhere in Europe we have old things, but not everything that is old is negative. There are positive things and they teach us a lot. It's our culture, our memories, everything is there. The history of the nations, the history of the world, the things we've learned. So it's something that is very rich. Everything that is in a museum is for us to learn about it. But it's different to be in a museum, okay, but don't bring a museum to your place because you might have some trouble.
Yeah,
But
go ahead.
yeah,
I was just going to say, yeah, in terms of the museums, exactly that. Is it something that clarifies that, where you need to think and reflect and learn and this is very different. Yeah, if the destroying something that I was thinking about is this idea of maybe reurbanization, right? The reurbanization of spaces where like an old use. It previously was used for something that was kind of negative, then it's transformed into like a museum or something more positive, right? So I was thinking also along those lines. But yes, just destroying the culture, the history, yeah, you have to, it can be negative, paradoxically.
yeah, but look, Anna, you live in the States, okay? If you could mention any of the statues that are being destroyed, that were destroyed in the USA, please do. I'm not aware, don't have this information. But what we can see nowadays is that lots of old statues related to dictatorship, okay, and other political, repressive political systems are being destroyed. And that's very good. That's a very good point. I think everything that is points out any negative thought or political tendency of the past that was destroyed lives, were genocides, were related to wars and to violence. They have to be destroyed and not how they say, not give so much value to those again. Let them be in the history books, okay, but not open in open air for everyone to see that because it's not worth it. That's what I think. So this is my analogy, okay, Anna? I think destroying bad things is very good. You could say, go ahead to destroy all negative symbol. And we have another, okay, this is a question from Anna. Anna answered already. Thanks for the questions and thanks for the questions. Let's move it further. And now it's Jaclyn's slide. Okay, go ahead. How can we detach from objects?
Yeah. So this is the thing. I think a lot of the time, especially when it comes to clothes, but to objects as well, we can form an attachment, especially if we bought the thing and we really liked it and we spent lots of money on it, right? So it's something that we have maybe an emotional attachment to it. But how useful is it for us, especially if over time it's just, we have a lot of these items in the house and it's cluttering up the space. Maybe it's time that we, and especially if it's, having a negative effect on our place, we need to maybe think about this idea of detachment, right? How do we detach from an object? If we think that this object, look, we need to detach from it, we need to look at those ideas that we have in relation to it and have maybe think about more useful thoughts that we can have. Like, is this evolutionary useful for us? Is this something I really need? Often maybe we haven't even touched it, we haven't even looked at it for a long time. Is it something that we used to use in the past but now no longer use? Is it something, okay, maybe I don't have any use for it, but maybe I'm not going to throw it away. Maybe someone else can find this useful. So to donate it. So this was one of the steps that Eliane spoke about. You know, this is a good way of getting rid of the object, but not, you know, knowing that it's going to go to a good home.
Jaclyn, I'm remembering here is some clothes of mine that I love them, but it doesn't fit me anymore because I gained some weight.
Yeah.
So they are there and we look at it and say, wow, one day I will lose weight and I will wear that again. But the tendency is that we won't have the same body that we had when we were 10 years ago. Get some weight. It's part of life most of the time. So that's what I say to women. Are you really want to wear this again?
Yeah, or it kind of was fashionable back then, but now it's, you know, not something you would ever wear again, but you have still an attachment to it. So yeah, all these things you need to think about. It could be even like a photo. It could be something, you know, where you have memories, positive memories connected to it. But especially if it's like, this is something, you know, you need to, it's not psychologically healthy to have that image anymore. For example, from an ex or things like that. So you need to see, you need to look at yourself and your ideas. Is this something that's really evolutionary positive? Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So these are objects that can negatively affect us. We're not going to go through all the items because there are lots, but if you want to have a quick skim through, because it's sometimes maybe we're not so aware of all these things, but, you know, it can be even gifts from negative people. For example, I remember a story a friend of mine told me where she had a bit of an argument with another friend, and the friend came over with a cake. And as soon as she took the cake, she had an energetic impact. The person was still thinking badly while they were baking the cake. So, and it had that impact. So the person didn't want to eat the cake when she received it, right? So these sorts of things we need to pay attention to. Things like, I mentioned photos already, jewelry.
Jaclyn, they absorb a lot of energies.
Jewelry, very much so. For example, it's interesting. I have certain rings that I wear, and I notice that people often comment on my rings, and it's not so much the rings themselves, but because I've been wearing them for so long, they actually carry an energy. You know, a stronger energy. Jewelry, very much the metal that pick up a lot of energy. So I have even little kids wanting to touch my rings sometimes. So it's this sort of thing. But yeah, jewelry, for example, a person has given you something that belonged to a deceased relative, you know, and this is another thing in terms of the detachment. You know, it has a sentimental value, but what kinds of evocations are you doing, right, with this object? So you need to have a look and see. And later we're going to talk about some techniques that you can use to see whether, you know, which is called psychometry, which you can do to analyze the quality of the object, including jewelry. Should we comment here? Yeah, about this, Mari's comment.
Yeah, Mari's comment. I still keep a porcelain candy dish that belonged to my father, a gift he received from his grandfather when he was 10 years old. Yeah, some objects are quite okay. They are memories, they are family memories, and they are positive. Yeah. You just have to be aware of what's positive, what's negative. What do you think, Jaclyn?
And this is the main thing, right? the object can be old, but not necessarily negative. You need to see the quality of the object. And this is where our discernment comes in and our parapsychism, being able to read the energies of that object. So if you feel like it, is positive memories that come when you with that object, then maybe it's okay. And so then we have furniture and decorations, antique furniture. This is also a big thing. People, their deceased relatives die or go through desoma, and they give them their furniture. So, and furniture as well. People have lived, with that furniture for many years. It carries a charge. So you need to think about how is that affecting the energetic sphere of my home. So this is something you can analyze as well. So let's keep going. So then other objects, kitchen items. So these are things like, do we have lots of unnecessary items? Do we have an excess of items? Like, for example, just not too long ago, we used to have a cupboard full of plastic and glass bottles, but I never touched it. We didn't touch it for like more than a year. And so this summer I did a spring cleaning. This is always good, and got rid of most of them. You think, oh, maybe one day in the future you're going to use, but you don't use it. So this is something you need to analyze. So I don't know, Eliane, if you want to read Andrea's comment.
Yes, Andrea's comment. Could those concepts be applied to digital objects too? That is, files in digital media or storage? Yes, Andrea.
We spoke a little bit about this previously, because of course, it's connected to your computer, it's connected to your device, your cell phone, and of course, but it would be interesting to be more specific. Like, for example, certain files, like just a mix of all different types of things, and of course, how is the level of organization of your space, your mental space? I think this has a lot to do with it. And of course, this affects the way we think, produce the thoughts and emotions and energies into our environment. But I don't know, Eliane, if you want to mention something else.
Just the idea, the suggestion here for you, for everyone, is to have one day, once a week, you clean your digital files. Clean everything that you don't use, emails. Try to maintain your email box free for you to focus in what is necessary. Avoid subscribing too much in things that will keep sending you emails, and clean your WhatsApp. Try to have some method to get rid of the unnecessary messages, because that you will see that makes a lot of difference. And if you have digital files, you can organize your laptop and put them in a separate file, or in a node laptop if you are going to use them later. Okay, for example, bills that were already paid, you have to, in Brazil, you have to keep them for 5 years. You have to keep the receipts for 5 years at least, most of them. So you don't need to maintain everything in your computer. You can have a dead file in another computer, or in a separate pen drive, or any other device, just in case you might consult them someday. But your computer, the one you work, maintain it as clean as possible, because it will even work better.
Exactly, because and my question is, what do you predominantly use your computer for? What types of activities? Because this will have an influence. For example, if you want to write, write a book on the computer, but you're predominantly using it for a different type of purpose, you know. So this can have an effect. It's on your level of production. So it's something to think about, especially if you've had the computer for many years, you know, and it does have that influence.
Very good. Jaclyn, we have some more 10 minutes more, okay? So
Okay.
let's move a bit faster so that we can show some techniques.
Okay, I think this is important. So let's move past this. It was things in your garden and your backyard, but it's the same idea that is applied for this, you know, things that you no longer use. So let's keep going.
And here are the techniques to clean toxic energies in objects. And well, we have three techniques. The first one is very known in Conscientiology, that is the vibrational state. I will explain for the ones who are new here. Psychometry of objects in environment and exteriorization of energy to objects. And so let's get started with this wonderful technique that is very useful for everything, for detoxing our own psychosphere, our own holosoma, all of our bodies. And you start moving your energy from head to toe, and from toes to head, and you are going to start increasing the speed of these energies through your will until the speed is you can feel the speed, you can feel the energies moving up and down to your body, and you are going to start feeling as a vibrational state, okay? And this is very good because when you are doing that cleaning that we mentioned, do you remember to take the 4 boxes and you are going by category and you are throwing away what is not necessary and donating and sharing among those 4 boxes, you might get very drained and tired because it's a very tiring process. It absorbs your energy. And when you do the vibrational state, if you have those toxins, those toxic energies in your psychosphere, the tendency is that you are going to harmonize. You are going to balance your energies and feel much better. And even the environment, you can, after the vibrational state, you can exteriorize energies to the environment so that they are more at your holocene. Your consciential energies will kind of master that environment that is yours. And the tendency is that you clean the energy of those environments and you will feel much better, right? So this is technique number 1 that we very much recommend. And technique number 2 is psychometry of objects. Jaclyn, can you tell us about it?
Very good. And I should just quickly mention also, if you declutter your spaces, you may find that you're able to move your energies more easily, to do the vibrational state more easily. So something to pay attention to. But this technique, the psychometry of objects, is a specific technique where you try to read the energies of the object. So if you think you are unsure about a specific object, the quality of its energies, maybe it's something that you bought, after doing the vibrational state, you can then exteriorize your energies to the object, so exteriorize and absorb, and then try and perceive any imagery or perceptions or thoughts or emotions that come with that reading, okay? So you don't think about anything, just do that exteriorization of energies and assimilate the energies. So you're absorbing those energies from the object. And so this is psychometry of objects. So it can bring memories or even past life memories, retrocognitions from the past, if it's an older object.
That's true. And you can do that, psychometry of objects, if you want to buy some object that is antique. Why not? You can see if it's positive or not. You can check on the energies. So, Jaclyn, we have a question here. Is it worth to try to clean an object? Is it worth keeping an object with negative energies? We saw that it's not worth. If you saw that is negative, throw it away. But the next question is it possible to clean negative energies from objects? So we think it is possible depending on the object. Some objects, well, it's impossible. Depending if it is a gun that killed people, it's not possible, people. It's very stigmatized. The amount of negative energy is enormous. Or any other arm, weapon, knife, and these old things of rituals, things that are heavy, have heavy energies. So it's not worth it. Forget about it. Throw it away. Donate to a museum where things are more, is for that to tell the history and move forward. Okay, so that's our recommendation. We highly suggest that. And as we mentioned here, antique objects and furniture carry a long history. Some are positive, some are not. So let's be aware. And well, we came to our final consideration. So the idea here, our last final considerations, free yourself from the clutter to live fully. That's very important. Better energies help you to focus in your priorities. What are your priorities of the moment? You feel more comfortable in your environments. You see more lightness, mental clarity, more health. And really focus in your praxis. What do you think, Jaclyn?
Yeah, so exactly. I wanted to mention, Chris Toddy just had a quick question. I think it relates to the previous, what we were talking about, with what would be the best thing to do with digital photos of a deceased person. But, you know, just to,
okay.
Maybe we can answer that question. And that's the thing, we need to see from, you know, from my perspective, we need to see the quality. It's interesting because photos can, how could I say, it gives us a history, right? A history of our relatives, our family members. So we need to see with the digital photo, the impact. And again, it's, you know, is this consciousness, you know, the evocation that we make with this consciousness when we look at the photo, how is that? Is the person, so we need to, I think we need to analyze case by case. Eliane, I don't know if you have something else you want to mention. I think, Eliane, you've come back.
Yes, now we are back. Internet issues again. So, well, Jaclyn, you were mentioning about pictures of family. Just for us to close, I think what I do with pictures, photos of my family, of our families. I have them, the ones, the beloved ones, I keep them in a box. And when I miss them, I go there and see. I don't put their pictures all over the house because I want the house to have our energy, my energy and my husband's energy. And that's it. That's what I think it's for the moment, that's it. But when I want to take a look at them, I have them in a box. So it's my memory box, and I give a lot of, I like it a lot. That's what I do. What do you do, Jaclyn, with the...
Yeah, no, I mentioned that, not what you said, but I've already mentioned. And I think, it has a lot of, there's a family history there. And so we have that connection. But I think, yeah, Eliane, I agree with you on that point.
Okay, that's it. That was Chris Totti's questions. Okay, so digital photos, you can keep it in your digital files. Okay, in your if you can, if you are, as Jaclyn mentioned, if you are using your computer for your current studies, maybe you put these pictures in an old computer, in a separate computer, so that it doesn't interfere with the energies, because we are immersed in energies. Our life is purely energetical. Everything has relation with everything, basically. That's it. Okay, people, so I thank you very much for everyone's presence. Thank you, Jaclyn, for being here with us. I hope to have you here more times so that we can talk about more things. And our next live will be about the International Congress of Conscientiology with Alexandre Zaslavsky on March the 3rd. So you are all invited. So book your agendas, book your diaries for on March the 3rd. Okay, 3 p.m. Brazil time. Hope to see you there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.